So for the future artists out there, what's the number one piece of advice that you can give them?
Number one piece of advice: if you know, really know and feel that you have great talent and ability, stick to it. Don't get deterred. And by deterred, I mean you have to make art uh, the number one thing in your life. That's not to say that you can't meet someone, you can't get married, you can't have a family, but realize that those things will distract. And no one has ever become a great artist or any great pursuit by doing something part time. You have to be a writer or a painter or some kind of artist, and you have to pursue it, and you have to pursue it doggedly. You can't give up on it. You have to go after it, but you also have to know that you don't have it. I mean, Alex, over the years, I've gotten many emails from bad writers, bad poets, bad this. I mean, I half of fucking India sends me doggerel every 6 weeks. It's like the sparrows coming home to Capistrano, and I get flooded with just reams of bad doggerel from PhDs in India. And these are people that are matchbook PhDs. They annoy the fuck out of me because none of them have any. They're like a lot of these people. There was that article that Roger Ebert had written about me some years ago, and Jessica, my wife, was looking at it a few months ago. There was some idiot who was, the typical troll there, and it turned out, and it's probably likely that he was this fellow that I had written an article about after years ago turning down some of his poetry, and it was just terrible shit. And he's one of these people that someone should have told him years ago, you don't have any talent. I mean, it's so lying and so deceptive, and this is why I hate MFA programs. You have to tell people when they're not good. You have to tell them, do not waste your time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Don't put bad stuff out there because it does have a negative effect on people. When I had to read or sit through a bad film, uh, I get in a foul mood because why was my time wasted? Why did you waste this time? When I read, what is Foster Wallace's bad book?
Infinite Jest. Well, I mean, all of them are bad,
Yeah,
but
the
Infinite
big one.
Jest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Infinite
Infinite
Jest.
Jest.
When I read that book, and I something or a Reddit thread, or someone sent me a thread about people saying that I couldn't have read that in 7 or 8 hours or whatever I did. How could I not? Bad art and bad writing, that's like cutting through water or cutting through air. There's no resistance. When you read Moby Dick, for example, and I could throw in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, the three or four best novels of Mark Twain, some of the best plays of an Oscar Wilde, the wittiness of it. You can't read, for example, one of Oscar Wilde's great plays and read it quickly because the wit, you have to sort of savor it, and you get to something and you go, you know Reginald, or whatever the character's name, that was really a turn of phrase, and you say, he actually meant three other things by that, because he's you if you know the English society that's being critiqued at the time, okay, it has that one meaning, but it also has a more timeless meaning in terms of human interaction. It also has the interpersonal meaning between the characters. It might have one at that time, and that's something that you don't get from an Infinite Jest. You don't get from Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. There's another guy, William Volman, that I reviewed his book of it was sort of like a best of reader. It's on Cosmoetica. I forget the name of the book, but there's William Volman, this kind of character who writes these 2 or 3 thousand pages apparently, and these excerpts, it's just words. Jessica, my wife, often says, it's just words on a page, and what she means by that is there's no coherent voice behind it. There's no person. I can't imagine someone actually typing it and having that Terminator-like thought processes going behind it. This Volman book, and I could in future questions or interviews that we do, if you want to ask me about the Foster Wallaces and the other people, specific things, that's good. But this Volman is a good one to talk about because he's in a sense even more pathetic than Foster Wallace. Okay, he didn't kill himself like Foster Wallace did, but he puts out this public persona that he's some kind of intrepid reporter, and he's got these photographs on his books and online of him as sort of this chubby, four-eyed, nettishy, nerdy guy who's trying to pretend that he's someone like who's that Gonzo reporter that died who did Vegas, Leaving Las Vegas, not Leaving Las Vegas, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. What's his name? Um, but he poses as there's some badass reporter, and I remember in the book there's a segment where he's talking about prostitutes that he knows, and drug use and whatnot, and it's one of those things that I grew up. I guess the closest thing, just to anyone not ever having heard of me, I would say if you look at the child character of the Ray Liotta character in Goodfellas, that's similar to the kind of life and people that I knew at that similar age. So I knew all about these kinds of prostitutes and drug dealers and crooked cops and corrupt politicians from an early age. And this Volman clearly never, I doubt he even met a real prostitute from the way he writes about it, because his writing about prostitutes is a cliche. There's like maybe a 6,000 word excerpt from, it's either from a book or I think it's a book of reportage supposedly about drugs and whatnot. And it's something from a bad Mickey Spillane novel admixed with Hunter Thompson. That was the Gonzo guy. Hunter Thompson shit. It's Mickey Spillane meets Hunter Thompson meets Nerd Boy fantasy. And that wouldn't be bad if it was actually written well, if it wasn't filled with all these cliches. He could have all the fantasies he wants. No one would hold that against him. But it's garbage. It's cliche upon cliche. In my essay that I did, I point out a handful of them. But literally, I could just have taken a marker, and 60 to 70% of the writing would have been either direct cliches, a bleeding heart, a naked cliche, my bleeding heart, that's a naked cliche. Or it could be just, cliche tropes, hooker with a heart of gold. She left when her uncle Hubert beat her with a frying pan at 7, and her first boyfriend, Dougie J, fingered her, and it's like this, most process, it was like reading something from Linda Lovelace, the former porno actress from Deep Throat who became a born again activist. It was just so out of touch with reality. It was just laughable. And so I forget the original question, but I mean that's anyway. That's William Volman for you.